This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, Special Prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
It's 2018. Many things are happening. There are a lot of dynamics in Washington, around the country, and around the world. It's a very important period. It's a very dangerous period. But I want to get something straight, because this show is not just about regurgitating what other people say. I mean, you hear that all over. You hear that on Fox News. You hear it on a lot of networks. It's the pablum that is fed not just to the world as a whole, but the conservative community. And, of course, I like Fox News. Thank God they exist. I think Newsmax, that I'm on frequently, is even better than Fox News in many respects. It covers a lot of different areas. WorldNet Daily, where I write columns, and also my blog on Klayman's Court on Fox News. So we're out there saying a lot of things, but a lot of the commentators that come on these shows really just repeat what's being said. You have a lot of young people that are on there. They're attractive people. They speak well, most of them. But they really don't understand the way Washington works. And, of course, the networks want to create ratings. Fox is doing that right now. And here's what I want to get straight. We need a special counsel to investigate the Hillary Clinton email scandals. We need a special counsel to investigate these newly arisen scandals that actually come from the past, called Uranium One, where the Clintons were bribed with hundreds of millions of dollars so Mrs. Clinton could sign off on a deal to sell 20% of our uranium to the Russians. That's a very strategic asset, which not only is with regard to atom bombs, that's how you make them, but it's also medical devices, and uranium is used in a lot of different things. And, of course, we have Fusion GPS, the phony dossier that was created by this discredited British spy, Christopher Steele, that was paid for by the Democratic National Committee in the Clinton campaign, which was the trigger which started the impetus to have a special counsel known as Robert Mueller, this highly corrupt individual with his corrupt prosecutors, try to take down President Trump and the people around him. But we need a special counsel. And that's why I have suggested that I be the special counsel. I mean, frankly, I'm the only one with the experience. I'm the only one with the guts. I'm the only one that will actually get the job done. I mean, you know that I've had citizens' grand juries that we've held in the past in Ocala, Florida. We've indicted Obama. We indicted Hillary Clinton. We convicted her. Of course, we don't have the teeth to enforce those convictions. But if I was appointed special counsel, I would have the full force of my alma mater, the Justice Department, behind me, and the job would be done. But, of course, we hear in the last few days, and Fox News is pumping it in a very strong way right now, because obviously it does boost ratings. And the Justice Department, under Attorney General Jeff Sessions, has apparently leaked through the Hill magazine to very fine reporters, John Sullivan and Sarah Carter, both of whom I know. But they are establishment. Sometimes they take it hook, line, and sinker. But this is not sincere, I don't believe. And I'm not just trying to throw cold water on this alleged fire, but Attorney General Jeff Sessions now announcing that he's going to have his prosecutors, his Justice Department, investigate the Hillary Clinton email scandal, the use of a private server, which was unsecure, which resulted in classified information going onto a number of different venues, computers, whether it was Anthony Weiner or Huma Abedin or a lot of other people. This, if he really wanted to get the job done, wouldn't be handing it over to Department of Justice lawyers. We know that 97% of the lawyers in the Justice Department either voted for Clinton or Obama or donated money to them. We know that everything they have touched so far has been politicized. We know about Bruce Orr, who's head of the criminal division, the criminal strike force, who was in bed on the Fusion GPS scandal with his wife, Nellie Orr. I dealt with him back in the 1990s when another Hillary Clinton scandal was being so-called investigated by a Republican administration under Attorney General John Ashcroft and George W. Bush, and that was covered up. It was Hillary Clinton's obtaining over $2 million in illegal campaign contributions as a result of the Hollywood tribute to Bill Clinton. And we had a client at Judicial Watch named Peter Paul, which ultimately Judicial Watch, after I left, abandoned. The poor guy wound up doing 10 years approximately in prison, much of it under house arrest. And Peter had the goods on the Clintons. He had canceled checks. He had thank you notes. He had put on this Hollywood tribute through Stan Lee Media. This was a company that he resurrected with Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man. And these were illegal campaign contributions. I took Peter to the Bush Justice Department, and he wanted to cooperate and really do a number, finally, on Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, and he had it. All the evidence was there. And this was a Bush administration, and it was a Bush attorney general. And Bruce Orr was in charge of that investigation. I went down to Brazil with his prosecutors on 2 occasions so Peter could meet with them in prison. And all of this was covered up. The only person that was indicted was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, David Rosen, and a jury acquitted him in Los Angeles, California, in a federal court because the jury couldn't figure out why Rosen was being held out to dry as the scapegoat when Hillary Clinton was not being brought in to be prosecuted. That was, in fact, the argument of the defense lawyers. So fast forward to 2018. We have a new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, frankly, who is more scared of his shadow than Ashcroft was. We have an administration inside of the Justice Department which has leaked information, which has collaborated in harming President Trump. We know of this FBI agent, Peter Strzok, that was working with James Comey at the FBI. So there's no reason to believe that these Justice Department prosecutors are going to bring the hammer down on Hillary Clinton. Let's be real. You know, ratings on Fox News or any place else are great, but let's talk about reality here. And the reality is you need a special counsel. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org, and sign our petition and support our cause and make it clear to President Trump and his Justice Department that Larry Klayman should be appointed, because I'll get the job done. I'm not going to lead you astray. I'll risk my life if I have to, and I mean that sincerely. Our founding fathers pledged their sacred fortunes, their honors, and their lives to form a new nation. What we need to do now is not be afraid. We need to get the job done. It's time to put the Clintons away, because otherwise they keep coming back as the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I'm not just talking about the Clintons. All the other vermin in Washington, D.C., the people that sliver around like snakes and cockroaches, this swamp that we talk about, you know, alligators are actually a nice image compared to what you have in Washington, D.C. And I'm not just talking about the Democrat establishment. I'm talking about the Republican establishment, too, that has been for the last year trying to stick a knife into the back of President Donald Trump because he wants to break this swamp up. And then you've got an Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who, frankly, is out to save his own skin. He's under investigation by Robert Mueller himself. He is alleged to have engaged in Russian collusion. He's alleged to have lied to Congress about his meetings with prosecutors. With the Russian ambassador during the campaign. It's not an accident that the Senate Minority Leader, this despicable individual by the name of Chuck Schumer, you've seen him on TV. Frankly, he looks like Officer Schnauzer in Car 54 when I was a kid. That was a television series, but not with the integrity of Schnauzer, believe me. He's the one now advocating that Attorney General Jeff Sessions shouldn't be fired. There are some Republicans that are saying he should be fired. There's a couple of people up on Capitol Hill, Jim Jordan and one other, who actually have come out and said this. They're not establishment. They are conservatives, but they don't get their way on Capitol Hill. The establishment Republicans rule through Speaker Ryan and also by the majority leader, Mitch McConnell. But now Schumer says, no, we want Mueller to stay. we want Sessions to stay. And why is that? Because they know that he's hapless. They know that he will not do anything to harm Hillary Clinton, Democratic Party interests, or anything. And they like the fact that his deputy, Rod Rosenstein, is a Democrat, former U.S. attorney from the District of Maryland under Obama, that he's giving Mueller free rein to conduct a jihad, a legal jihad against President Trump and everybody around him. So, look, the tables are flipped. The fact that Schumer now wants Attorney General Sessions to remain as Attorney General tells you the story. Now, this is the kind of information that you don't get on Fox News. It's the kind of information you don't get on a lot of different publications out there and networks because they don't understand the way Washington works. I've been fighting the Clintons now for 23 years since I started Judicial Watch. Now I have Freedom Watch, which does the work that Judicial Watch used to do. Judicial Watch mostly pries documents out of the government, and that's good. I taught those guys how to do it. I don't care for them very much, the people that are running it. I don't think they're honest people at all. I've had my issues with them. But I'm glad that they got the documents. But what do you do when you get the documents? When you play cards, you put the money down on the table or you get up and you leave the table. When you go to the casino in Las Vegas, you either lay it down or you leave.
1 minute.
And the fact is that you don't get it done with this Justice Department. You need a special counsel who has free rein to basically take the Clintons apart and to take everybody in and around this corrupt Washington swamp, including Republicans, apart. And we need to restore the vision of our founding fathers. We need to bring back honesty and morality and ethics to this government. That's what I've been doing for the last 23 years. And you need Larry Klayman to do that. So I want you to go to freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa, one word, .org. Contribute to our cause. We need the resources. We need your support. Sign up for our newsletters and sign our petition and get our free publicity at least. We'll be right back with more of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Fearless.
This Klayman, he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
You don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now I want to talk about Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Of course, I want to be the other special counsel that investigates the Clintons, that investigates all the corruption in Washington, D.C. today, including on the Republican side. I'll need a mandate from the Justice Department to do that, and that's why you need to go to freedomwatchusa.org and demand that Larry Klayman be appointed special counsel for these tasks. But we have a special counsel. He's, quote, a man of integrity. Now, as I've said before, every time you hear the word man of integrity in the context of the Washington swamp and establishment, run for the exits, because that means that that person is one of them. That means that that person is participating in this cabal where Democrats and Republicans stuff money into their pockets, the American people be damned, and we are left out in the cold. Well, let's talk about Robert Mueller. I have filed lawsuits through Freedom Watch to have him removed because he has, in effect, not in effect, but actually leaked grand jury information to smear President Trump, the people around President Trump, like his family, associates, and others, Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, who haven't been convicted of anything. And he's done that because he realizes that if he never gets convictions, at least he'll be able to harm the presidency and maybe bring him down, trigger impeachment if Democrats take over the Congress in the fall of 2018. He's doing that because that's what he believes the establishment wants. He is a product of the establishment. That's how he became FBI director. That's how he became special counsel. That's why at his law firm he's able to get a lot of business. That's why the man is most likely a multimillionaire. He's part of this club. And of course, that club includes the president's lawyers themselves, who have done a really poor job in representing him. And I'm talking about Ty Cobb. I'm talking about Jay Sekulow. I'm talking about Dowd. And these people are part of the establishment. They are there for themselves before they are there for their clients. And that's the way, frankly, most lawyers are. And that's why I started Judicial Watch, and it's why I now have Freedom Watch, because I'm not like that. I'm the anti-lawyer, and I'm proud of being the anti-lawyer. And frankly, except for a few judges in this country, I'm tough with them too, because they're lawyers. Now, we need to get rid of Mueller. So I have filed a lawsuit because of those leaks with the Office of Professional Responsibility, the Inspector General of the Justice Department. I asked them to investigate. They would not investigate. Of course, this is Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So I went into court to force an investigation. Now, we got a Obama-appointed judge, a real political hack, perhaps the worst judge on that bench, by the name of Amy Berman Jackson. And I'll tell you something, to say the worst judge on the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia is saying a lot, because there are only 3 judges up there who have any sense of integrity. The rest of them, frankly, are political hacks. They slow-rolled Freedom of Information Act requests during the Obama years. Excuse me, I'm getting choked up. And, you know, even Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch, who likes to beat his chest about the documents that he got on Fox News, the reality is even he had to admit in the last few days that he couldn't get the Abedin documents for 2 years. This is after the fact, you know, before, after things already had passed. So this is why we need to take action ourselves. We need to have a Freedom Watch, who is your private Justice Department, that brings hard-hitting legal actions and takes other actions without regard to politics, who will tell it like it is, who will stand up to judges and do the job. So anyway, Amy Berman Jackson is the one who has the Manafort investigation. Manafort prosecution. What has she done so far? This is a real political hack. This is an Obama appointee. This is someone who went to Harvard. I don't condemn her for that, but she's part of that milieu in Harvard. Hope you appreciate the French. And she is an ultra-leftist. So with Manafort, he offers up $11 million worth of bond, which, and you know, when you get out of jail when you've been prosecuted, it's basically just to prevent you from fleeing the jurisdiction. The man is not of any threat to anybody, but she refuses to let him out from house arrest, even during Thanksgiving.
1 minute.
His partner Gates is still under house arrest as well. She puts on a gag order, which is totally unconstitutional. The Manafort can't even defend himself when he's being trashed by CNN and being trashed by MSNBC. And the woman is on a jihad. She's a rubber stamp for Robert Mueller. Well, this is why we need to get rid of Mueller, and it's also true with regard to the president. And we're going to be filing ethics complaints against Mueller because thus far we haven't had any real response from Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So this is what separates Freedom Watch from Judicial Watch today. We are what Judicial Watch used to be. We'll go the extra mile. We'll file lawsuits. We'll put ourselves on the tracks. And go to freedomwatchusa.org. Sign our petition to have me appointed special counsel. Sign our petition to support our lawsuits to remove Robert Mueller. This is an extremely corrupt individual. We'll be right back with more Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
Let me tell you, good friends and patriots, the facts of life when it comes to Washington, D.C. Things are not the way they appear to be. The only 2 journalists in my lifetime that I've ever seen understand the way Washington works, truly, or are willing to be honest with the American people, were William Safire, who used to be a very fine columnist for the New York Times. He's deceased, and Robert Novak of the Chicago Tribune. These are people who really, truly understood the way Washington works. These young kids that come out today, they really don't. They're looking to boost their reputation. They're looking to boost their ratings. And frankly, they haven't had the experience to really delve deeply into their thought processes to see the way things work. Now, look, you know, I started fighting the Clintons back in 1994. I'm the only lawyer ever to have a court of law rule that Bill Clinton committed a crime. That happened when he released the Privacy Act protected file of a woman that he sexually assaulted in the Oval Office, Kathleen Willey, who later became my client. I understand the way Clintons work. I triggered the Chinagate investigation at Judicial Watch over money that was being paid, lining the pockets of the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton-Gore reelection campaign to buy seats on trade missions overseas. That gave rise to other information about classified material that was being passed on to the Chinese and others for money to the Clintons and otherwise. This is nothing new. So I understand this. We triggered congressional investigations at Judicial Watch. We brought lawsuits on our own. We had a very fine judge by the name of Judge Royce Lamberth who made a number of rulings. But even Judge Lamberth, who I have a great deal to thank for, when George W. Bush was elected, he lost interest in a lot of these cases. You can see that in my book, Horrors, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment, which you can buy at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Go on our website at freedomwatchusa.org. And the reality is the Clintons were never brought to justice. And I swore, after I ran for the U.S. Senate and started Freedom Watch, that I would do everything I can in the future, no holds barred, legally and ethically, to get the job done, not just with regard to the Clintons, but with regard to everybody else who is destroying this country, who has degraded this country to the point where, frankly, we're a moral and ethical cesspool. And that's why I don't want you to be fooled. And I've said that earlier in this show. And let me give you another example of where you can't be fooled. And this is why I'm fighting so hard for Klayman Bundy. Now, we know that Klayman Bundy, a rancher in Bunkerville, Nevada, stood up for his rights. He's a Mormon. Mormon religion should be respected. It's a fine religion, just like Christianity and Judaism. They're not far off. In fact, Mormons are the descendants of Jews. It's easier to become a Mormon if you're Jewish, if you want to convert, interestingly enough, than if you're of another religion. Klayman's grandfather, Levitt, was most likely Jewish. But that's neither here nor there. I just want you to understand that Mormons are not out of the mainstream. They have their own views. People make fun of them because there's a lot of prejudice. But Klayman believes that the Constitution is incorporated into the Book of Mormon. He believes that the United States is the promised land. He respects Israel, and Mormons respect Israel. That's where they came from. They're one of the tribes of Israel. But they put the United States first. They are generally true patriots. I have Mormons working for me. I understand. I've gotten to understand. And Klayman stood up for his rights because the land in Las Vegas, Nevada, that he ranches on, his family ranched on for 150 years, is in reality not owned by the federal government as the government has claimed. The federal government has claimed that they own 85% of the land in Nevada. They claim that they own a little bit less in Utah and in Arizona, and even 38% in California. Now, how can these states be states? The federal government owns their land. Ask yourself that question. And if you look at the succession of the way land rights, in fact, occurred over the last many, many centuries and decades, the United States only held the land in trust for the states before they were made states. The rights reverted to the states. But yet this powerful federal government that wants to usurp all this power over the states, and this is why, as much as I like John Adams, he was a Federalist, one of our founding fathers, I like Thomas Jefferson even more. Thomas Jefferson was the first true Republican. He believed in states' rights. He believed in individual rights. He didn't want a strong federal government because any strong government is going to have the right to, is going to have the means to become tyrannical, to think that it knows best for the American people, and if they don't like it, let's shove it up their derriere. And that's what happened with Klayman. And now the Bureau of Land Management, part of the federal government, decided that they were going to manage the land because the federal government owns the land, without asking the ranchers in the West whether or not they wanted them to manage the land that they were having their cattle graze on and drink it at ponds and streams and lakes. Klayman ranches around 300 to 400,000 acres around Lake Mead in Nevada. There's very little to drink from, so they have to go to Lake Mead to drink. And some streams, he owns those water rights by virtues of usage. He has rights to have his cattle graze there by virtue of his family doing it for 150 years. Bureau of Land Management moved in and said, we're going to charge you fees for this. They didn't ask the ranchers. Klayman wouldn't sign the contract. He says, I don't need your help. I can manage my own land that I've been having my family graze on with cattle and drink on for 150 years. So the fact that the BLM moved in, they also started to enforce these ridiculous environmental regulations that were put in there by the ultra-left. The desert tortoise became more important than the cattle on Klayman's ranch. And therefore, BLM started to tell the ranchers where their cattle could eat. Now, there's not that much food. It's desert. They told them even which bush they could eat at, in effect. So these ranchers, they all went out of business. The only one that was left standing, because you can't do business under those circumstances, was the Bundy Ranch at Bunkerville. And as a result, Klayman stood up to the federal government when the federal government, through the Bureau of Land Management, charged them grazing fees for services that he didn't want or need. Are you going to pay money to have yourself put out of business? And what they were doing was unconstitutional. Now, along comes Harry Reid, that corrupt, disgusting senator, former senator from Las Vegas, Nevada. Harry Reid, through his equally disgusting, corrupt son, Rory Reid, in downtown Las Vegas, a lawyer, tried to sell the land out from Klayman to reportedly Chinese environmental interests. He had his own hand-picked former chief of staff in the Senate put in as the head of Bureau of Land Management, a guy named Neil Corin. Obama was the president at the time. Obama went on along with Harry Reid. He was Senate Majority Leader. So what happened? They sent in goons to push Klayman Bundy off the land. And these goons came in from the Bureau of Land Management, some of them from the FBI, threatened Klayman's life and his family's life, circled the ranch, we now know, with snipers. And when Klayman would not budge and would not roll over to Obama and Reid's federal government, they violently assaulted Klayman's sister, Margaret, threw her to the ground. You can go to KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org, KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org, and read all about it and contribute to that defense fund, because this is a costly proposition in defending Klayman Bundy, because I'm out there all the time, and we need your help. But I also want you to understand what happened. Two of his sons were assaulted and tased. The dog was violently kicked, almost killed. Tens of bulls in the herd, which you need to procreate, with the female cows. You can't have little baby cows unless you have males, and you don't need as many as you need female cows. They were killed, buried in a mass grave, and the goons came in from BLM at gunpoint and just trashed the ranch. I mean, when they eventually left, liquor bottles were all over the place. They were celebrating what they were doing. And we found out in the course of the trial that, and which has been going on now for several months with regard to Klayman Bundy, a trial upon which a judge appointed at the suggestion of Harry Reid and appointed by Obama sits over Gloria Navarro. Now, even she has had to recognize, with the new information that came out in the early stages of that trial, that exculpatory evidence was destroyed and shredded by the Bureau of Land Management and by the FBI. A whistleblower has come forward who says that there were even a kill list for Klayman Bundy and the people around him. They had targets of Klayman on the walls. They were making disparaging remarks about Mormons. That's why I wanted you to understand something about the Mormon faith. Although I'm not Mormon, I've come to learn about it. I've met with Klayman at least 25 times in prison in the last 2 years. Klayman's a great man, and we talk to each other about religion and God on a frequent basis. And they were calling them retards, making fun of them. And the acting U.S. Attorney, Stephen Myray, a really evil, corrupt individual in Nevada. Nevada, that's the way you say it out there. East Coasters say Nevada. I've learned that as well. He was told about this whistleblower. The whistleblower came forward. He said, look, all this stuff's going on to harm the Bundys. And he covered it all up along with his co-prosecutors, who were Dan Sheese, and I forget the woman's name. It's a Muslim name out there. Now, even this Judge Navarro, who has been very prejudiced towards Klayman Bundy, denying him his speedy trial rights, first putting him in solitary confinement, not granting my pro hac vice application to come into the case. I'm still contesting that. Allowing the federal government to hide evidence, but then letting it in at the last minute when it's discovered. I can go on and on and on and on, keeping the Bundys in prison for nearly 2 years when they hadn't been convicted of anything or not a threat to anybody. And that's another thing about the evidence that's come out. The federal government has documents, threat assessments, where they knew that the Bundys were harmless, but yet they asked Navarro to keep them in prison for 2 years without trial and without even, having been convicted. And I pray to God that they never will be. But during that time period, I went to Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So I want to get back to you on that issue of Sessions and who he is and how the Justice Department works. Because I'm a former alumnus, and I'm disgusted by the way the Justice Department works. It hasn't worked for the last 23 years. So why should it work now? Even under President Trump, they don't even do anything to help him. They've broken away. They're for themselves. 97% Clinton and Obama supporters. And I went to Sessions about 10 to 11 months ago after he was confirmed. I talked to him on his cell phone. I said, Jeff, you got to review the Bundy prosecution. This is political. It's unjust. Obama didn't like the fact that Klayman equated his plight to the plight of the Negro. He took offense that Klayman used the word Negro, and that's the way Martin Luther King used to refer to African Americans. There's nothing wrong with that, you know? And even when the word Negro was being used, then African Americans wanted to be called blacks. Well, you know, how you call somebody really doesn't matter. It's what's in your heart. And Klayman is not a racist. The African Americans in prison with him love him. The guards love him. But Obama basically had him prosecuted for that, and also to do the bidding of Harry Reid and his federal government. And on the way out the door, Obama even nationalized Klayman's land as the Butte Gold National Monument. So this is where we are today. I asked Sessions to review it. He said he would. And then I tried to have a meeting with Sessions. And I was told by his scheduler, Eric, just send us updates. We're reviewing it. And then I went to Washington to meet with him when I couldn't get a meeting through Eric, the scheduler. And then I get a letter from his counselor by the name of Brian Morrissey saying, oh, we've sent all your stuff over to the acting U.S. attorney, Steve Myray, in Las Vegas. Why don't you deal with him? Well, that's going into the devil's lair. That means nothing. That was a dodge. And Sessions, who has himself been accused of being a racist only because he's from Alabama, he's not a racist, has buried his head in the sand. Now, just recently, after this whistleblower stuff came out that I just talked about, very, very damaging, and after the judge declared a mistrial, and this Monday she's going to consider whether it'll be with prejudice, Sessions finally says, okay, I'm reviewing the case. But what happens after that? His prosecutor, Myray, was not removed from the case. His prosecutor, Myray, the acting U.S. attorney, files a brief that says, oh, no harm done. We'll give all the documents now over to the defendants, including Klayman, and we can start the case all over again, and we can try this thing for 6 months. And besides, no harm done, and we're going to be on the case. Well, where has Sessions been? This tells you what's going on in Washington. This was only for show that he wanted to say that he'd review the Bundy matter because it became so serious when this whistleblower came forward. And the same thing is true with regard to his claims that he's now investigating the Clinton email scandal and other scandals, Fusion GPS and Uranium One. So this is why you need a Freedom Watch. Go to freedomwatchusa.org, sign up, sign our petition, contribute to our cause, and go to KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org and contribute there as well. We'll be right back.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
This week, we've seen another Trump controversy with this book that's being published by this character by the name of Michael Wolff. It deals with Steve Bannon, former political advisor to President Trump, who has frankly been Benedict Arnold and just trashed the president, accused everybody around him of committing treason because they had one meeting with a so-called Russian lawyer who had information on Hillary Clinton. Of course, we now know that the Clintons paid for a phony dossier prepared by Fusion GPS through the Democratic National Committee and through their own presidential campaign, which was the trigger to have special counsel Robert Mueller appointed. Bannon, of course, has been the person that's been running Breitbart. Now, I knew Andrew Breitbart. Andrew was a really good guy. He was a true patriot. He did a lot of really good things while he was alive. He tragically died. Frankly, I don't think that was an accident. And Bannon then took control with some very high-powered donors. And during that period of time, Breitbart did a lot of good things. They've been trashed. You know, inappropriately. But Bannon now has burned his bridges with true conservatives and, frankly, also Breitbart. And this, as well, is symptomatic of the swamp in Washington, D.C. They used to say, and they should still say it, if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. You know, I have a dog. I'll tell you something. Dogs are the greatest creatures on earth. They're not lesser than human beings. They're loyal. They're there when you want them. They're always happy to see you, I can tell you. And I wish more people were like dogs. But I'll tell you something. Bannon is not a dog. He's a disgusting snake. And this man should be barred from having anything to do with conservatives, libertarians, or true Republicans. And he's done some real harm to this Trump presidency. But, of course, the leftist media wants to play this up. This has been a constant drumbeat the entire week. And I just hope that the conservative community, whether it's Fox News, whether it's any of the other entities, not only addresses these issues of Bannon. Bannon needs to be driven out of the conservative movement. He needs to be banished. I guess that's maybe why his name is Bannon. It should be Banish, Steve Banish. Because we have to hold together. As Benjamin Franklin said, if we don't all hang together, this was in the days leading up to the revolution and during the revolution, we will all hang separately. And it's very important that we do that right now because this country is under attack. This country is going down for the count. We face some very, very serious dangers and challenges, whether it's North Korea, whether it's Iran, whether it's the leftist movements from within, Antifa, whether it's Obama in his $8 million mansion in Colorado, he lives close to Hillary Clinton, whether it's George Soros, that self-hating Jew who collaborated with the Nazis in World War II with his father, confiscating the property of Jews as they were going to their deaths in gas chambers and in ovens. These people want to destroy the country, and they're continuing to try to destroy the country. I have friends that are on the left, I'll tell you. Many of them actually are Trump supporters at this point, if they're my friends. But the left in this country is vicious. The left on this country is violent. And frankly, we are on the cusp of a violent revolution. And I'm trying to avoid that. And that's why you need support to support Freedom Watch. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause. Go to KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org. I'm representing Klayman in his private capacity. And contribute to that cause. But also get our newsletter, sign up for us. But I don't want you to be fooled. I want you to understand that Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch, we're laying it on the line. We'll do whatever needs to be done. You know, I say what needs to be said. I called Obama a Muslim. He is a Muslim, okay? Fox News would never even let you use the word Muslim. Larry Klayman will use it straight up. And recently, James Wood, the actor out here in Hollywood, did it, and he was banished from Hollywood. The man has supported every Muslim cause since the very beginning. And why did he do that? He's half Muslim. He did that because he saw they wanted to destroy the United States. Not all Muslims are bad, by the way. I have Muslim friends, too. But these radical ones are. So we need somebody that will stand up for the truth. We need someone who will lay it on the line. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause. Sign our petition. And go to KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org. There are forces out there, the left, atheists, radical feminists, radical Muslims, and others who want to destroy this country. We'll see you next week. Keep the faith. God bless you, God bless America, and God save America.